The UU204 team, as you can see, we're a creative lot. We work together. That's the force we have, the Pacific Force. We present to you weaving RSD the Pacific way, UU204 Italy team. And Italy is an Itoke word meaning weaving. Right, we will weave RSD, we will weave maths, we will weave the metaphor as well as the literal. Sorry, part of that has gone into darkness, but I will have to be a fast train here because there's a whole lot of my team. The EU2, I will start with the course, is a generic course that was started in 2012 where USP found out that there are a lot of graduates that do not have the Pacific at heart, neither do they know anything much about the Pacific apart from where they are from. And also, leading on from that is the Pacific consciousness. And right from the beginning in UU204, our course in particular, the language, the body language, the words we use, we establish a Pacificness in the course, and that goes with the language such as the Vaka, those are the groups that we have, navigators as the guides that you have up here. We also, at this juncture, I'd like to acknowledge Jackie, Leota, Betty Manufetoa in Tonga. Jackie was our previous coordinator, and Josiah Osborne, who's not here. And I'd also like to acknowledge our present, one of our two coordinators that have taken over from Jackie, Dr. Frank Thomas and Dr. Yara Hockenberg. Our team, the Italy team, weaving maths. It's a common, maths and weaving is common in the Pacific. And I draw your attention, pandanus and coconut weaving, be it a mat or fan, it's quite common. We've brought you both communities. We will bring you both communities. I'm just doing the introduction. The inland communities, freshwater communities, the two I mentioned before are coastal communities, and they're more familiar. So with time constraint, we'd like also to include our inland communities of the Pacific, which encompasses all our students in 204. The Italy framework, Itoke weaving, we will weave the RSD framework and the actual weaving, the mat as a metaphor. The mat, the mana in the fingertips of the artisan, mana in the fingertips of the women, mana in the researcher, the manner in which that mana is projected, the mana and the manner, the metaphor, the symbolic potency of weaving and the mat. We will also bring in the literal as of the text, as stated by Ball in his the Latin word texera, past participle of the word of that word, which the text is to weave. Therefore, the text of RSD, the text hidden and obvious, is a portal where we see RSD as well as our metaphor, is a portal of our narratives of the Pacific people's values and ideas. That there must be a framework to investigate Pacific communities and people. With that, researching with Pacific peoples, we also have Thayman's sentiments of researching, especially with Pacific peoples. So we have come on a journey, navigators and crew. Let the journey continue with the PRSD, Pacific Research Skills Development. We feel our weaving Italy framework and the mat metaphor is an integrated, indigenous, ingenious approach. I leave that to you to find out or to comment on or to appreciate. I now take us inland to the freshwater systems.
Ms. Rosarina, on behalf of our UU204 Italy team, I would like to invite all of us to come and join our weaving group or our Italy group, and in doing so, I'd like to ask my colleagues, Ms. Rosarina and Gilda, if they could just distribute the flags around to all the tables. So they will distribute one bunch to each group. Those are kuta reeds or kuta flags. And I would like to thank Ms. Joanna Beasley, our visual arts coordinator, who's seated here, for graciously allowing us to use their materials for us. Thank you, Joanna. Once you get your little bunch of kuta, you're now part of our Italy team. So together, we will weave the RSD framework together. Okay. Now, in our Pacific cultures, as you probably have noted in our abstract, a mat is a common or a familiar art in our Pacific culture. Now, the act of sitting on an open mat, that signifies preparation for learning. So this afternoon, our mat is open. You do not sit literally, but I'm going to ask you to use your imagination. It's open, and our UU204 team is welcoming all of you on board to our weaving group. Together we will weave the RSD as we progress in our presentation. Now we are seated on the mat and we are ready to learn. Okay, so we'll hear from the experts, and I have quoted 2 experts there. Now, if you're a gentleman, you might be thinking weaving is a woman's job. It's not, because that first quotation that I have outlined there, that's a man. He's a master weaver in kuta. This particular raw material, this is kuta, it's a type of reed that's found in wet or lakes or marshy area. So this is the kind of materials that our inland communities use, as opposed to the pandanus that we are probably more familiar with, that's used by our coastal communities. According to Matayasi, the master weaver from Maduata, harvesting kuta, it is a tough job. It takes about 3 hours to walk to the lake and back with the load. So 1.5 hours from the village to the resource area, and another 1.5 hours from the resource area back to the village. Now, I've also quoted a group of women weavers from Navakasobu village in Maduata. These are the experts, and they talk about the process of selecting the kuta to be used in weaving. You select the green kuta stalk, no red spots, no flowers. You hold the stalk above water with your right hand, run the left hand downwards, gently separate it from the other kuta plants, move your hand to the root and gently pull it out of the water. And one by one, you place the harvested kuta stalks on dry ground. Now, as we are sharing about the process of kuta weaving, I've purposely left out the elements. Well, I know it's there under embark and clarify, but I'm asking you to use your imagination as a weaver as to how does the process of harvesting kuta correlate to a student who's embarking on their research. Okay, so I think the pictures speak for themselves. The first picture, this is a typical resource area where kuta is harvested, and the second part, that is how kuta is carried. It is carried a certain way. Okay, it's not carried horizontally, it's carried vertically so that the kuta stalks do not break. So harvesting kuta is hard work, and so is research. Now, you might be wondering, okay, so how does that correlate to the RSD? From Matayasi's description, when students get into that wealth of information that's out there, like online databases, libraries, you name it, it's hard work. There's so much information that's there. The students need to be able, they have to first of all understand at the outset it's hard work. Okay? They have to wade through the mashes of information that's out there. And information, it needs to be handled a certain way. They don't just pick anything and put it into their writing. It goes through a process where they select the right type of material. Is it credible? Okay? Is it relevant to their assignment question? And that is the link that we can make with the way kuta is harvested. And so there are 2 specific areas that we have identified in Maduata, Fiji. They are experts in kuta weaving, and in Northland, New Zealand. And there's just one idea that I want to pick up from the practice of the Maoris in Northland, New Zealand. Their weavers, they monitor the resource areas where they harvest kuta from. Okay? They have a mind map where they know that this resource area we can get 2 from here, 2 from there. So in the same way, our students need to use concept maps to be able to clearly embark on their research. And so we have outlined 2 concepts in the Fijian language, and one is Pakasangangara, meaning finding information. You can see a lady there looking for the right kuta to cut. And you can see there's a man there that's about to cut, so he has identified the right type of kuta flex to cut, and he's doing that. Once you get it, you have to wrap it up in all mats, and for 4 nights, no breeze or wind is supposed to touch it. In the same way, students need time to process the information. They can't do overnight research and write a good quality paper the next day. Just as Kuta needs 4 nights wrapped in all mats, so the students also have to go through that process. They need to take in the information, have a sedimentation or processing time that will enable them to link new information to what they already know. And finally, you might be wondering what you're supposed to do with that kuta flex you have in front of you. You're supposed to do something about it. In Maluata, Fiji, the first kuta harvest is presented to the chief. And so what we want to throw up to you to weave your kuta flex with, in recognition of such specific customs, how can they be incorporated into our Pacific Research Skills Framework? So you can share your feedback during the question and answer time. And now I would like to ask Mr. Weselera Mode to continue with the elements.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Chokapeli. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that struck me from my presentation, and actually we were trying to figure this out, was the fact that you're probably looking at the picture, the image, and then you're questioning yourself. You're probably quite quizzical, because Mrs. Chokapeli was talking about bandanas and kuta, and now you can see that they are using synthetic fibers in that particular weaving. And why the change? It is possibly because we would want to ascertain the fact that weaving is a universal art. In the actual sense, we started off with something very cultural, something very specific. And at the same time, when I was thinking of providing a visual about the whole art of weaving, would love to bring it back to our audience that the art of weaving is universal. And at the same time, we're talking about contemporary research or cultural research. Hence the image that you were seeing on the slide. And I'd like to start off for Pacific Studies, having taught Pacific Studies for a number of years now. One of the things that we always highlight during class is the visual, imaginations, creativity, initiative. And to begin off my presentation, I'd like to create a scene. And perhaps we shall go through the scene, and perhaps the scene will explain what are the different steps, the steps number 3 and number 4 of the whole framework. So you imagine that there's a group of weaver or weavers. They are all focused. This is one of the days in which they have to weave a beautiful piece, a beautiful product, be it a basket, a mat, a bag, a sail, a hand fan or iri, or a balloon, if you're from Papua New Guinea or Solomon Islands, balloon. At the back of their minds, this particular weaver, he or she, they are contemplating issues that he or she needs to come to terms with. And I'd like to start off with a Fijian term which is called naunge. And this was recently inserted into my presentation today when I heard from our chief guest talking about inquisitivity, being very inquisitive, being very curious. And for a weaver to approach the product, he or she comes up with this curiosity. It's called, in Fijian, the term we use is naunge, the drive. And that is probably one of the driving factors that will probably lead to come up with the different steps. And these are some of the questions that may have arisen out of this particular person's curiosity. Number 1, which particular synthetic, which particular kuta, which particular reed or pandanus are available that you would like to make your product out of? Question number 2, what colors would be suitable for the beginning? Or if you're looking at putting some creativity on the edges or on the end, what colors are you trying to come up with? And then you need to look into the whole texture to find out which ones are appropriate for the product. you will find out that some of these products may have been exposed to the elements, to the rain, to the sun, and at the same time, these may not be appropriate for such project. And the fourth question, a weaver might want to regroup your raw materials according to their sizes, the bigger sizes, the smaller sizes. And possibly an interesting one is in the whole process you are trying to eliminate and trying to discard the unnecessary ones from necessary ones. Ladies and gentlemen, in the actual research framework, I'm talking about Unit 3 or Level 3 or Facet 3, which is called Evaluation and Reflection. I suppose this third step of the RSD, the process can be very, very daunting. The word itself, evaluation, reflection, what does it mean? It may be too daunting for students, and we found it out that even the teachers, and even if you were to revert to the vernacular and find out what would be the word that could help a featured student understand the concept of evaluation and reflection. So these were some of the challenges that we faced. And some of the things that we've come up with is, in terms of this framework, checking the credibility. In this era of information, there are lots of information that are scattered around. And there is a need for us to scrutinize which of these resources are credible and which ones are not suitable. And then the selection criteria. We've used for UU204, our marking rubric is one of a very strong platform which ascertain our selection criteria when we are looking into students' assessment. And the other one is criticism. At the level of if the particular student has reached that level which are able to criticize or critique a body of knowledge. This is also very important in this actual framework, because sometimes we do not know what are the levels that these particular children or your students have come up with. So questions such as what, when, how, where are always implemented at that stage. And then move on to RSD, your facet number 4. And the whole notion of the fourth step, which I'd like to summarize here, is governed by 3 terms. Number 1, for this facet is for organize and manage. However, I would like to use 3 terms that capture the whole essence for students to understand what does this step involve. Number 1 is layering. For a weaver, the process of layering determines the shape, the texture, and the formation of the intended project. That is very important when students are approaching this level as well. And sequencing, a weaver who is trying to fit the pieces together. Patterns and designing, they are the relevant skills and knowledge. And finally, the word deconstruction. I love using this term, though sometimes it could be too sophisticated. Deconstruction. One of the beautiful things about weaving is that when you come to the final product, you can actually deconstruct and then re-modify into your own intention. So we've actually found that out, and it takes a little bit of skills and possibly experience as well. When you are already charged with an assignment and you are asked to deconstruct the learning facets from that particular assignment. So I'm going to hand you over to Mrs. Lingam to continue the next facets.
Thank you, Mr. Ramode. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I will take you through phase 5 of the RSD framework, which is analysis and synthesis. We, the Italy team, feel that analysis and synthesis is the most challenging facet, and we have devoted more marks to